The desperate broadcast. The crystalline towers of Xerion Prime caught the amber light of twin suns, casting prismatic rainbows across the city's flowing architecture. In the highest spire, Ambassador Vexhai Morleth stood before the curved windows of the Zephyrian High Council chambers, his 6 arms trembling as he clutched the datapad containing the most terrifying intelligence report in galactic history. "Honored counselors," Vexhai began, his melodic voice carrying an uncharacteristic edge of panic. "What I'm about to share will sound like the ravings of a fear-addled mind, but every word has been verified by our deep space reconnaissance division." Chancellor Thyssara, her feathered crest bristling with impatience, gestured with one of her 4 taloned hands. "Ambassador, you've called an emergency session. Speak plainly." Vexhai activated the holographic display at the center of the chamber. The familiar star map of the galaxy materialized, but one section pulsed an ominous red, the outer rim territories where humanity had begun their expansion. 3 cycles ago, our scouts encountered something unprecedented near the Sol system, Vexhai said, his primary eyes fixed on the display while his secondary ones monitored the Council's reactions. "A species that calls itself humanity, and they are unlike anything we've cataloged in 1,000 years of galactic exploration." Counselor Brekthos, a massive crustacean-like being, clicked his mandibles dismissively. "Another primitive species discovers interstellar travel. How is this our concern?" "Because they're not primitive," Vexhai snapped, his usually diplomatic composure cracking. "Our observers witnessed a single human vessel, a mere patrol craft, obliterate a Scaran raiding party of 12 ships. 12 counselors. In under 4 minutes. The chamber fell silent except for the gentle hum of the environmental systems. The Scaran were known throughout the galaxy as formidable pirates with advanced weaponry and battle-hardened crews. The idea that they could be wiped out so easily was inconceivable. "The weapons technology," Vexhai continued, manipulating the display to show tactical readouts, "defies our understanding. They use something called kinetic bombardment, massive projectiles accelerated to significant fractions of light speed. No shields, no matter how advanced, can withstand the kinetic energy transfer. And their artificial intelligences—" He paused, his throat sacs pulsing with distress. "Their AIs control swarms of unmanned fighters that move with precision no organic pilot could match." Chancellor Thyssara leaned forward, her golden eyes narrowing. "Surely you exaggerate. No species develops such advanced military technology without first establishing diplomatic relations with the Galactic Confederation." "That's precisely the problem," Vexhai said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "They have no interest in diplomacy. Our scouts observed their interactions with the Hectarian Trade Collective, a peaceful species that offered technology exchange and cultural exchange. The humans' response was to demand complete territorial concessions and submission to their authority. When the Hectarians politely declined, the hologram shifted to show the remnants of what had once been a thriving star system. Where planets should have orbited, only debris fields remained, glowing faintly with residual radiation. "They call it glassing," Vexhai said, his 6 arms gesturing helplessly. "They reduce entire worlds to molten slag, not for resources, not for strategic value as a message. And the most terrifying part? They do it with such efficiency that it's clearly not their first time." Counselor Marin Dill, an elderly aquatic being whose gills fluttered with agitation, spoke in her fluid musical language. Her translator rendered her words with mechanical precision. "You're suggesting they've done this before? To how many species?" Vexhai activated another display, showing a cascade of data. 17 verified instances in the past solar cycle alone. The pattern is always the same. First contact, demands for submission, refusal, annihilation. They don't take prisoners. They don't establish colonies on conquered worlds. They simply eliminate any species that refuses to acknowledge their dominance. "But why?" Chancellor Thyssara demanded. "What drives them to such extremes?" "Our xenopsychologists believe it's evolutionary," Vexhai explained, bringing up biological data on human physiology and behavior patterns. Their homeworld is a death trap. Extreme weather, predatory megafauna, Geological instability. Most species would have developed cooperative survival strategies. Humans developed warfare. They spent millennia killing each other in increasingly sophisticated ways, and now they've brought those skills to the stars. The chamber's atmosphere grew heavy with dread as the implications sank in. The Zephyrians, like most advanced civilizations, had evolved beyond large-scale warfare centuries ago. The concept of a species that had weaponized destruction to such a degree was alien to them. Counselor Brekthos shifted uncomfortably, his carapace scraping against his seat. Surely the hegemony or the Vorthan Empire would intervene if this species poses such a threat? Vexhai's laugh was bitter and humorless. The hegemony sent a diplomatic envoy, the cruiser Eternal Wisdom and her escort squadron. We found debris scattered across 2 light-years of space. The humans didn't even slow down to collect prisoners or salvage. They simply removed the obstacle and continued their expansion. What of their numbers? Marindil asked. Surely, such an aggressive species would have small populations due to constant warfare. 8 billion individuals on their homeworld alone, Vexhai replied, with established colonies on 47 worlds and growing. Their reproductive rate is staggering, and they've industrialized warfare to a degree that allows them to field massive fleets with minimal resource allocation. Every human civilian can be converted to military personnel within weeks. The data was overwhelming, terrifying in its implications. Chancellor Thisara stood slowly, her ceremonial robes rustling like dry leaves. What do you propose, Ambassador? Vexhai straightened, drawing upon every ounce of his diplomatic training. We must warn the galaxy. Every species, every civilization, every minor power must understand. Under no circumstances should anyone provoke humanity. They are not negotiable, they are not reasonable, and they are absolutely not merciful. And if the galaxy doesn't listen, Brekthos asked, then we will. Witness the extinction of galactic civilization as we know it, Vexhai replied simply. The vote was unanimous. Within hours, Vexhai stood in the communications center of Zirion Prime's most powerful transmitter array, its quantum entanglement relays capable of reaching every inhabited system in the galaxy simultaneously. Citizens of the galaxy, he began, his voice carrying across the void to millions of worlds. I am Ambassador Vexhai Morlith of the Zephyrian Confederacy. I speak not as a representative of my people, but as a witness to something that threatens us all. He paused, knowing that his next words would either save countless lives or brand him as a hysteric. There exists a species known as humanity, originating from the Sol system. I implore you, all of you, do not engage them in hostilities. Do not threaten their territories. Do not attempt to negotiate from a position of strength. They possess weapons and tactics that render conventional warfare obsolete, and they employ them without hesitation or mercy. His voice cracked slightly as he continued. I have seen entire civilizations reduced to cosmic dust. I have watched star systems burn. The humans do not seek conquest in any traditional sense. They seek absolute dominance through overwhelming force. Those who submit may survive. Those who resist will be annihilated. The transmission continued for another 20 minutes, Vexhai providing every detail he could without revealing classified Zephyrian intelligence methods. He spoke of the kinetic bombardments, the AI-controlled swarms, the casual efficiency with which humans eliminated opposition. Please, he concluded, his exhaustion evident in every syllable. Remember these words. Do not attack humanity. You will never escape their wrath. The transmission ended and Vexhai collapsed into his chair, emotionally drained. Around him, technicians worked quietly, ensuring the message reached every known communication relay in the galaxy. In the days that followed, responses trickled in. Some species thanked the Zephyrians for the warning. Others dismissed it as xenophobic propaganda. The proud Crethon Empire sent a particularly scathing reply, calling humans another paper tiger that would crumble before the might of true warriors. Vexhai archived each response with growing dread. The galaxy's species were too proud, too confident in their own power to believe that a primitive species from the outer rim could pose a real threat. As he watched the dismissive replies accumulate, Vexhai realized with crushing certainty that his warning had fallen on deaf ears. Somewhere out there, some fool would test humanity's resolve, and the galaxy would learn the hard way that his desperate broadcast had been prophecy, not paranoia. He only hoped that when the burning began, someone would remember that he had tried to warn them all. When the warning came true, Captain Zara Nightwind stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution's edge, watching the tactical display with the cold precision that had earned her command of humanity's most advanced strike fleet. The holographic readout showed the mining colony of Kepler 442b in real time, or rather what remained of it. "Final casualty count, Lieutenant Torres," she said, her voice carrying the edge of barely controlled fury. 14,837. "Confirmed dead, Captain," Torres replied, his knuckles white as he gripped his console. The Crethon bombardment was thorough. They hit the civilian shelters first, then the industrial sectors. No military targets. This was pure slaughter. Zara's jaw tightened as she studied the footage from the colony's final moments. Crethon battleships, sleek predatory vessels with their distinctive crimson hulls, had emerged from hyperspace without warning. No demands, no negotiations, just death raining from the sky. The miners and their families never had a chance. "Admiral, Morrison's response?" she asked. Commander Blackthorne, her second-in-command, pulled up the orders on his personal display. "Full authorization for retaliatory action, quote, show them why humanity doesn't negotiate with terrorists," end quote. Zara nodded slowly. The Crethon Empire had made a fatal miscalculation. For months they had been probing human space, testing defenses, growing bolder with each successful raid. Intelligence suggested they viewed humans as another soft target, a otire species too new to interstellar politics to pose a real threat. They had clearly never received Vexhai's warning, or more likely, they had dismissed it. "Status of Strike Fleet Omega?" Zara asked. "All vessels report ready, Captain," Blackthorne replied. 43 ships total, 12 dreadnoughts, 16 cruisers, 15 destroyers. Full complement of Wraith fighters and Reaper drones. Estimated time to Crethon Prime, 18 hours. 18 hours. Zara allowed herself a grim smile. The Crethon Empire sprawled across dozens of star systems, built over centuries of conquest and exploitation. They probably expected months of siege warfare, prolonged battles that would give them time to marshal their full military might. They were about to learn how humans waged war. "Helm, plot a course for the Crethon homeworld. Maximum burn," Zara ordered. "Communications, patch me through to the fleet." The bridge fell silent except for the low hum of the ship's engines ramping up to full power. Across the tactical display, 42 other vessels aligned their vectors, their drives painting space with brilliant blue-white fire. "This is Captain Nightwind to all vessels," Zara announced, her voice carrying across the quantum links to every ship in the fleet. 14,000 of our people died on Kepler 442b. They died because the Crethon Empire believed humanity was weak. They believed we were just another species to be bullied, exploited, and discarded. She paused, watching her bridge crew's faces. These weren't career soldiers. Most of them had been civilian engineers, miners, traders, just 5 years ago. But humanity's expansion into the galaxy had changed them all. It had to. In a universe full of predators, only the apex predator survived. "Today, we correct that misconception," she continued. "We don't fight for territory. We don't fight for resources. We fight to send a message that will echo across every star system in this galaxy. Humanity protects its own, and the price of attacking us is annihilation." The channel closed, and the fleet jumped to hyperspace. On Zirion Prime, Ambassador, Vexhai Morlith stood in the communications center, monitoring the quantum chatter that flowed across galactic networks. For weeks he had been tracking reports of increasing aggression between humans and various minor powers. Each incident followed the same pattern: provocation, overwhelming human response, complete destruction of opposition forces, and still, the galaxy's major powers remained skeptical. "Ambassador," His aide Cassandra whispered urgently. "We're receiving multiple transmissions from the Crethon Empire. They appear to be panicking." Vexhi's 6 arms moved across the control interfaces, with practiced efficiency, pulling up the intercepted communications. What he saw made his heart skip in unison. The Crethon military command was in chaos. Fragmentary reports spoke of human fleets moving at impossible speeds, weapons that defied conventional physics, and tactics that seemed designed not just to win battles but to psychologically break the enemy's will to fight. "By the eternal flames," Vexhi whispered. "It's happening." The Crethon home system was a fortress. 3 heavily armed orbital platforms surrounded the planet, each one capable of destroying a conventional fleet. Minefields stretched between. The outer planets and sensor networks provided overlapping coverage that should have detected any approaching force hours in advance. The Crethon High Command watched their displays with growing confidence as their early warning systems showed nothing but empty space. The humans were taking their time, probably mustering the largest force they could manage for a prolonged siege. They were still congratulating themselves on their strategic brilliance when Strike Fleet Omega dropped out of hyperspace directly above Crethon Prime. "Impossible," gasped Admiral Thyrak, the Empire's supreme military commander, as 43 human vessels materialized inside their defensive perimeter. "How did they—" The question died in his throat as the human ships opened fire. Zara watched, the tactical display with professional detachment as her fleet's weapons carved through Crethon defenses like a blade through tissue. The orbital platforms, massive structures that had taken decades to build, simply ceased to exist under the focused fire of human kinetic cannons. Tungsten rods accelerated to 12% of light speed punched through shields and armor, as if they were soap bubbles. "Enemy fleet moving to intercept," Torres reported. 300 vessels, mixed classes. They're trying to form a defensive screen around the planet. "Adjust formation to Harbinger Protocol," Zara ordered calmly. "Deploy all drone squadrons. Target their command ships first." The space around Crethon Prime erupted into a maelstrom of fire and death. Crethon vessels, for all their sleek menace, were built for raiding and intimidation. They had never faced an enemy that had spent centuries perfecting the art of total warfare. Human Reaper drones, each one controlled by an AI with processing power that exceeded most species' central computers, swarmed through the Crethon formation. They moved with inhuman precision, exploiting every gap in the enemy's defenses, targeting weapon systems and life support with surgical accuracy. The Crethon fighters tried to engage, but their organic pilots couldn't match the reaction times of machines that calculated optimal firing solutions in nanoseconds. Entire squadrons vanished in seconds, their debris adding to the growing cloud of wreckage around the planet. "Admiral Thyrak is requesting communication," Commander Blackthorne reported. Zara considered for a moment, then nodded. "Put him through." The alien's face appeared on the main screen, humanoid but with elongated features and skin that shifted between purple and crimson. His eyes held the glazed look of someone witnessing the impossible. "Human, Commander," Thyrak said, his voice distorted by his species' vocal apparatus. We did not know. The warnings, we thought they were fabrications. Please, we can negotiate." "You had your chance to negotiate," Zara interrupted, her voice flat and emotionless. "You chose to murder 14,000 civilians instead. Now, you learn the cost of that choice." "Please!" Thyrak's composure cracked completely. "Not the planet. Take our fleets, take our colonies, but spare the homeworld. There are billions of innocents." "Were there innocents on Kepler 442b?" Zara asked quietly. Thyrak's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Around him, his bridge crew was abandoning their stations as proximity alarms screamed. "This is the price of attacking humanity," Zara said. "Remember it. Broadcast it. Make sure every species in this galaxy understands what happens when they threaten human lives." She cut the transmission and turned to her weapons officer. "Begin orbital bombardment. Kinetic strikes only. I want the planet intact enough that others can see what happened here." Across the galaxy, the news spread with the speed of quantum communication. The Crethon Empire, A power that had dominated its region of space for over a millennium had been broken in less than 6 hours. Not defeated, not occupied, but utterly destroyed as a military force. On Zirion Prime, Vexhai received reports from observers throughout Crethon space. The humans hadn't just won a battle. They had systematically dismantled an entire civilization's ability to wage war. Every military shipyard was rubble. Every armed vessel was debris. The planet itself was scarred but livable, a monument to human precision and restraint. But it was the psychological impact that truly terrified him. The humans could have glassed Crethon Prime entirely. Instead, they had left it wounded, but alive, ensuring that survivors would spread the tale of what happened when humanity's patience was exhausted. "Ambassador," Cassandra said quietly, "we are receiving surrender overtures from 17 different species. They're all offering territorial concessions, tribute, anything to avoid human attention." Vexhai nodded wearily. The warning he had broadcast months ago, the desperate plea that had been dismissed as paranoid raving, was now being repeated on every communication channel in the galaxy. But the words had changed, taking on the weight of observed fact. "Do not attack the humans. You will never escape their wrath." Captain Zara Nightwind stood in her quarters aboard the Retribution's Edge, gazing out at the stars through the viewport. The fleet was returning to human space, their mission complete. Behind them, the Crethon Empire was learning to be grateful for their continued existence. Her personal communicator chimed, and Admiral Morrison's weathered face appeared on the screen. "Exemplary work, Captain," Morrison said. "The Joint Chiefs are very pleased. How are your people holding up?" "They're good, sir," Zara replied. "No casualties, minimal ammunition expenditure. The new targeting AIs performed flawlessly." Morrison nodded approvingly. "And the psychological impact?" Zara glanced at the intelligence reports on her desk. "Every major power in the galaxy is suddenly very interested in non-aggression pacts, sir. The hegemony has offered to mediate any future disputes. The Vorthan Empire has withdrawn from 3 contested border regions. Even the Trade Collective is offering preferential rates. Fear is a powerful diplomat," Morrison observed. "But what about you, Captain? How are you holding up?" It was a question Zara had been asking herself for months. Each victory came easier than the last, each enemy more quickly broken. Humanity was becoming something unprecedented in galactic history, a species that other civilizations feared to provoke. "I'm fine, sir," she said finally. "We all are. We're doing what needs to be done." Morrison studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Get some rest, Captain. I have a feeling the galaxy is going to be much quieter for a while." The transmission ended and Zara returned to watching the stars. Somewhere out there, Ambassador Vexhai's warning was being repeated on 1,000 worlds, in 100 languages. The Zephyrian diplomat had tried to save the galaxy from humanity's wrath. He had failed, but perhaps in failing he had saved it anyway. The galaxy now understood the true cost of provoking humanity, and in that understanding there might finally be peace, the kind of peace that came from absolute, undisputed dominance. As the fleet jumped back to human space, Zara smiled coldly at her reflection in the viewport. The warning would echo across the stars for generations. Do not attack the humans. You will never escape their wrath. And the galaxy would remember.